Thank you very much. How are you? Hey, thank you very much. This is so exciting. So we're going to talk a little bit about agents. My name is Don Sherman. I'm CTO at Pega. We're AWS longtime partner, software company based out of Boston. And we do a lot of automation, workflow automation, decisioning automation for some of the world's largest organizations and government agencies. And if you've been out here today, like you guys, everybody's talking about agents, everybody's very excited about agents. I also talk to a lot of enterprise CIOs, folks who run pretty big regulated businesses. And while they're excited about agents, they're also a little bit scared about agents, right? Because if we're operating in an agentic world where an agent is getting things right 90 to 95% of the time, that's disastrous if you are a bank, if you are a life sciences company, if you are a government agency operating under regulations. So what we want to talk a little bit about today is how can you build agents that operate with a higher degree of predictability? So you actually get them to do the things you want them to do. And that starts with stepping back a little bit and thinking about some of the technology that underpins agents, right? So we start with agents, but we have to go back a little bit and talk a bit about AI. And we have a tendency, I think, as technologists, to talk about AI as sort of one giant blob. Like there's a giant blob of AI if you read a lot of the news coverage that happens with AI. But I think those of us who have worked in the space for over a decade know AI actually isn't just one thing. It's a bunch of different technologies that solve different problems. And I like to think about AI in a couple different forms. There's what I call AI decisioning. This is AI that can use structured data to find predictions, find relationships, and then use those predictions to make decisions, like what's the best offer to give to a customer? Or how likely is this process to miss its SLA? Right? And we do that in Pega. We have a product called Customer Decision Hub, which my colleagues over at our booth would be happy to show you. Amazon has been doing this for a while too. We use their SageMaker models, which are really decision-making predictive AI models built on structured data. Of course, over the last couple years, we all got introduced to generative AI. And generative AI introduced a whole bunch of productivity tools for us, right? We've probably all used Copilot. I go to a lot less meetings these days because I just wait for the meeting to be recorded and for somebody to email me the summary, right? AWS has provided great tools with Bedrock that we can use to build these productivity solutions. We've got them. You can summarize any case in Pega. You can use RAG-based tools to get at your knowledge. You can have coaches that recommend things to users. And I think productivity tools are great. But I also think a lot of the AI productivity tools are a lot like Microsoft Excel. We would never hire an employee that doesn't know how to use them, but we actually aren't going to differentiate our business through the use of AI productivity tools, because everybody's using the same tools, right? So what I'm focused on and what we're focused on at Pega is how do I use AI to drive transformation? How do I use AI to make my business better, to make it different, to actually rethink some of the business processes and ways of working and customer experiences that we deliver? And we've been lucky enough to partner with AWS as the only ISV that was present in their launch of AWS Transform, their tools for modernizing mainframe and Java and other applications. And we've done that through a capability that we call GenAI Blueprint. And GenAI Blueprint uses AI capabilities from AWS, from organizations like Anthropic, and some of the know-how that Pega's built out over the last couple of decades of automating some of the most complicated processes in the world, and we use it to help you rethink your business processes and then be able to apply agents against those workflows. Because what happens is the workflow acts as music. The workflow gives your agents a score so that instead of playing random notes and going off and doing random things, they're actually operating together in unison. And I like to think about Blueprint as sort of an AI or agentic composer that helps write the kind of scores that we need for our business to run, regardless of the industry you're working in, regardless of the area or domain in the business that you're working in. So that's enough from a slide perspective. What I want to do is quickly actually show you Blueprint. So this is Blueprint. You can check it out. You can go to pega.com/blueprint. If that's hard to remember, I'm going to give you a QR code at the end. You can also walk over to our booth that is like literally right directly across from me, and people will be happy to show you Blueprint. But again, you can do it yourself. So when you log into Blueprint, and again, all we're going to ask for with Blueprint is your email address. We're not going to spam you. We're not going to use anything you put into Blueprint to train our data. This is your tool for thinking about your business and how you want to run it. But you can come into Blueprint and you can first begin by selecting an industry. So somebody give me one of these. What's an industry folks would want to do a blueprint for? Insurance. Awesome. All right. So we've worked a lot in insurance with clients like AIG and Farmers and Allianz, right? So we know that insurance actually isn't just insurance. There's different areas. Any one of these particularly interesting to you? The first one, commercial property and casualty, right? So this is like actually insuring businesses, right? So building the insurance process for businesses. And actually inside of insurance, I can type whatever I want here, but let's deal with claims. That makes sense. Great. Claims are always interesting and complicated. So now I describe a little bit more about what I want this application to do, right? So I could do end-to-end claims management. I'm going to select first notice of loss, so that's like the intake. If something goes wrong, you got a fire at your pizza place, you call your property insurer and you say, hey, I need to get my pizza ovens replaced because I had a fire, right? So related to new claims remote, focus on small business owners like restaurants, right? So we've got a little bit of focus. Let's do this for an insurance company that might offer this kind of stuff. So I'm just going to throw Farmers out here. There we go, Farmers Group. Oh, actually, sorry, Farmers Insurance is the one that I want, but we'll grab the right one. Well, Farmers Group. We'll go with Farmers Group, sorry. And I can do this in different languages, but I don't speak any of them well, so I'm going to do it in English if that's okay. And what happens now is Blueprint starts going and doing searching. It's looking at a RAG-based database that we have of industry best practices. We also work with partners like Capgemini and EY and Accenture, and they actually have their own versions of Blueprint that have embedded some of the best practices that they've built. It's also looking at some of the things around the structure of an enterprise application. And what Blueprint has identified is that in order to automate the first notice of loss for our insurance company, I need to be doing a couple of different types of workflows. I need to be able to take in a claim. I need to do a damage assessment. I need to understand if there was a business interruption, right? So this is all stuff that Blueprint has figured out through AI and by looking at understanding best practices available either in our database or in the broader internet. And it suggested some workflows to you. I can change these. Right? If I want to edit them, if I want to add more, I can add more. But from here, I'm just going to go and let Blueprint continue to work. And it's now going to take each one of those workflows that I defined, and it's going to figure out all of the steps of the workflow, what's going to be automated, what's going to be done by an agent, what's going to be done by a human. It's going to figure out what are the data models that need to run underneath this application, so what fields do I need to collect. It's going to suggest the places where this application would need to interface with other data objects like my policy admin system that are going to live somewhere in my business. It's going to think about who the users of this application are, right? So who's going to use this application and what different types of security privileges and user experiences do they need? And then it's going to think about all the channels that I want to have this application running on. So what Blueprint has now done, right, and what we've been doing this for about 2 minutes, right? Blueprint has now actually created for me a full application for first notice of loss for a commercial insurer. So it understands how to intake a claim, do things like verify policy information, right? It basically has laid out the business-specific steps this workflow needs to do. And if I want to change the order of these things, I can drag and drop them around. I can add steps. I can remove steps. Right? This is mine to configure at this point. AI's made a whole bunch of suggestions, but the end user gets to make the decisions of what is actually happening. Blueprint's also figured out the data model. So what do I need to collect in order to run this case? It even suggests some business rules. My AI is still running in the background, but the Blueprint will actually suggest business rules and decisions and build you out decision tables for what this application needs to do. And it's done this not just for one, right? But it's done this for things like my damage assessment process. It's done this for anything like business interruption if I need to manage that. So it's done this for the full suite of my applications. It's also figured out what's the data model that I need, right? So I need to go get my policy information. Now, my policy information is probably not sitting in Pega. So I can go in and change that. I can say that, no, actually I want my policy information is going to come out of my policy admin system. And so now we're building the data maps of where this workflow needs to interface out to different systems. In fact, if you come to Blueprint with existing YAMLs, right, so definitions of REST files, if you come to Blueprint with existing DDLs from databases, we can just import those directly into the Blueprint and use them. And then finally, the blueprint has figured out, well, who are the people who are going to use this app, right? So I'm going to have a restaurant owner who's probably going to submit this, my claims adjuster, the insurance agent who needs to be notified, my claims supervisor, my risk assessor, all of that. Cool, so now I've built this, but here's the really cool thing. If you've done a lot of sort of projects and requirements gathering, and you've got your business people and your IT people, and everybody's trying to get together, too often you're operating in sort of a state of blindness. The business people don't really know what they're going to get at the end of the day. The IT people don't really actually know what they have to build. So we get project delays, we get things that are inaccurate, we get things that don't actually deliver the value that they were expected to deliver. So the power of Blueprint is that I can, right now, I can actually run the application. So this is now a running prototype of my claims application, where I can actually go through and I can intake a claim. We're using AI to generate a bunch of synthetic data so that I can test this, right? But I can literally step through all the various stages of my claims process. I can do that not just in a desktop. If I wanted to see what that looks like on a mobile app, I can preview that experience. A lot of our clients are Salesforce customers, so we're often the workflow engine sitting behind Salesforce. So we've got a pre-built Lightning component where our workflow runs natively inside of Salesforce Lightning. So you can actually see our workflow there. We're also a contact center app. So we show up in Gartner's Magic Quadrant as a leader in the contact center space. So I can embed all of these workflows directly in a contact center app that incidentally integrates with AWS Connect. So you can do your telephony that way. We can do some self-service if we want to do it, right? So I can embed this right on the farmer's homepage. But we talked about having conversational agents, right? So what I've done now, and again, I haven't written any prompts, I haven't done any coding, but I now have a conversational agent that can do work on my customer's behalf. So if my customer comes in, and tells the agent that he had a fire in the restaurant, the agent is going to use the workflows that we just built as its collection of prompts and data for what it can do. And now it's going to have a conversation with the customer, but the agent isn't randomly figuring out what to do. It's not doing a whole bunch of reasoning at runtime. It knows the workflows it needs to follow. So it's going to now drive through the exact process that it needs to do. So it wants to know when the fire occurred. Right, I'll type that in. And behind the scenes, we're just building out a case. We're literally following the workflow that I just defined via AI 2 minutes ago, right? And the cool thing is, I can use the agentic AI to do things that the LLM is really good at doing, like semantically mapping me to the right workflow, or changing the language of the conversation that I want to have. All still the same workflow, all being consistently executed, but now allowing me to have an agentic interface into how you do it. The other powerful thing that we've built into Pega is the ability not only to have an agent come in and call those workflows. We do that, by the way, via MCP, so if you want to plug in another agentic front end, you certainly can. This agent that I'm running here supports A2A, so if you wanted to connect it up to one of your other agents, great, they're all going to work well together, right? But we also can then start embedding agents at individual steps of the workflow. So maybe I need an agent that's really good at validating photos of the evidence, right? And calculating a damage estimate. Maybe I have an agent that's good at identifying a signature and validating that the customer has signed off on the claim that they're submitting. I can embed those agents in my workflow so that I get more and more automation, but because I'm restricting them to an individual step of the workflow, I don't have to worry about them going haywire. I don't have to worry about consuming a bunch of tokens I don't need, and I can treat the agents the exact same way I would treat a human. I can quality check their work. I can escalate to somebody else if they can't get the work done properly. So we provide that ability to have both agents on the top and agents on the bottom of your workflow. So that's Blueprint. You can check it out yourself at pega.com/blueprint. You can go check it out at our booth. The other thing that we're beginning to see happen, and what we've been thinking a lot about at Pega, is where we think the world is going. And I actually think that we're entering a world increasingly where our users and our customers aren't going to interact with applications in the way that they used to. Right now, the way we make our users interact with applications, anybody ever walked through a contact center? Anybody ever spent time inside a contact center? Like the hellish life of a contact center front end, right? Oftentimes, contact center users will have 4, 5, 6 different applications they need to go to because they have one application that does one thing, and they have another application to do another thing, right? And so often, we actually put that experience not only on our users, we shove it out to our customers, where you have to call one number if you want to get one service, and you got to go talk to another group, right? We're exposing our organization and system silos to our customers. And I actually think one of the big transformations that agents are going to drive is a lot of that complexity can now be hidden. Because instead of thinking of our business as a collection of applications that a user needs to switch between, I want to increasingly think about my business as a catalog, a fabric. And that fabric consists of workflows, things that I can do on behalf of my employee or on behalf of my customer. That fabric consists of knowledge. What do I know that could answer a question for them, right? What kind of things are covered by my insurance policy? And that fabric consists of data. What are the actual pieces of information that a customer might want to see? What was my last bill on my policy? When is it due? Right? And if I can take and make that fabric available and weave those workflows together, we do this through what we call our agentic process fabric, I can now allow a customer to have a single point in to all of the workflows in the business, whether the workflows live in Pega, or frankly, whether the workflows live somewhere else. Whether that data happens to live in Pega, whether that data lives in Redshift, whether that data lives in Databricks, whether that data lives somewhere else. And as we are increasingly working with our partners at AWS, with the Transform tool, our partners like Capgemini, who recently announced a composable marketplace offering to modernize Lotus Notes, Accenture, who just announced a composable marketplace offering with us in Transform to modernize mainframe applications, we're going to be able to accelerate the path for a lot of our clients to take what are outdated, siloed mainframe experiences and bring them into this modern agentic future. And that's the future that we think is going to happen. It's going to be driven by agents. It's going to be governed and bounded by workflows. It's going to deliver better experiences, but it's going to be in the predictable fashion that businesses demand. So that's how you can pretty quickly start deploying predictable agents in your enterprise. What I would encourage you, though, is the great thing about Blueprint is you can test it out. You can try out the experience. You can throw your own process into it. You could do, Blueprint a business process like we did with claims. You could I blueprinted my daughter's college application process recently, right, to kind of get some sense of sort of what that's going to look like. But try it out. Offer us any feedback. Come see us at the booth over there. We're really excited to be partnering with AWS on this, and we look forward to driving a lot of transformation over the next couple of years. So thank you all very much. Thanks for spending the time.